What's up everyone, welcome back to another episode of Workshop Rebuild. In today's video, I'll share with you the base frame assembly on the John Deere 400. I have the main frame on 4 jack stands and everything is perfectly secure right here. I can mount parts internally, so that is between both frame rails. After that, I will be mounting the transaxle in the rear, and then I'll look forward to mount some parts on the outside of the frame rails. So you guys will see me mount everything onto the main frame. Over there on the little table, I have a whole bunch of hardware, and over here on the white table, I have most of the components and sub-assemblies which will mount onto the main frame. So when we look at the white table, I have most of the steering components right here. I do not have the rod ends for the tie rod or for the drag link, so I'm gonna have to leave that out for today's video. I have to still purchase those, but I can mount the front axle and some of these steering components right here. Moving on forward, I have the front PTO, which I will be assembling. This acts as the front pivot for the front axle. That will be mounted today. Right here, we have our shift lever for our first and second gear, or a high and low. That is for our transmission. There is a little bit of hardware that has to go with this, so some support brackets, and I'll share that all with you guys later on. Next up, I will be mounting the hydraulic control linkages. So this is what you'll see within your dash. We have a damper right here, another little linkage part, and this long bar right here will go all the way back onto our hydraulic motor. These parts will be brackets for our pivoting points. As you guys can see, there are bores or bigger bores within these parts, and these will be mounted on various shafts. Another thing I will be mounting in today's video is the main hydraulic block with the control levers as well. So this will be mounted within the main frame, and that's probably one of the first things I will be mounting since it's on the inside. After that, I will be looking at some external parts like the brake pedals and the linkages for the brakes. So these are some of the parts for the brakes, but I'll get into that later on. Before I start assembling anything, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button down below. If you find this video helpful in any way or any of my other videos, consider subscribing because I'll always have some valuable content to share with you guys in the near future. I shared with you the main frame, the hardware that I have ready, and all the sub-assemblies which will be mounted onto this main frame. So now let me share with you guys the time lapse. shared with you guys a whole bunch of B-roll, and now I'll give you guys a quick overview on the frame itself, and then I'll merge the transaxle to the rear end of this frame. On the front end of the frame, I mounted the PTO, the front axle. I only mounted one spindle for now. I will be mounting the other one, but that will have to get hooked up with the steering linkages. As I mentioned before, I still need those rod ends, so that's why I did not mount this side of the spindle yet. The front pulley, as well as the front hydraulic lines, are mounted. Everything is tied in with the hydraulic block. I mounted the hydraulic levers, mounted the steering gearbox. Off to the other side of the frame, I mounted the brake pedals. So everything is mounted on this side. We have the left and the right brake pedal. On this side, I have all the linkages for the hydrostatic drive. So this will be placed within our dash. The spring will be on this side of the lever. This follows down and along to the damper and also to our linkage, which follows all the way to the back where our hydraulic motor will be. On the cart in front of me, I have the transaxle ready to get put into the rear end of this frame. I have a couple linkages, which I will hook up to that side of the transaxle. So we have our 2-speed linkage, which is laying right there. And then we have our forward and reverse, which is down below in that position. Once I have this installed, I can then look at the brake linkages, which follow all the way back to our hookup points on the brakes. And then I will also be mounting a couple accessories for the 3-point hitch. So we have our cylinder, which will hook up in this area right here. This will be the top part, and the bottom part of the cylinder will fall back in this area. And we'll have a couple components behind the transaxle for the 3-point area. I gave you guys a quick overview, and now I'll mount some more. So it's the next day and I'm back in the shop. Right behind me is the main frame. It's still on jack stands, but I have a whole bunch of parts mounted within the 2 frame rails and also a couple parts externally. But I'll give you guys a close-up view on the rear end right now, which I previously worked on. Yesterday it got a little late on me, so I stopped, and today we have much better lighting, so I can give you guys a better view on what's within the frame rail. And as you guys can see, the transaxle is bolted to the frame. We have 1 bolt right there, 1 right there, 3 on this side, and then 3 more on this side, something to mention is you have to put those bolts in from the inside on the right half of the frame, because we will be mounting our lift cylinder on this side right here. So you do not want the bolt to protrude through the nut on this side. So the first two bolts will be sticking out this way, and the other one can go the other way, and these three can just go normally in from this side. One thing I didn't hook up yet is the linkage from the control lever to the hydraulic motor down here. That will be still adjusted because there is a lot of adjustment right here. And then there will be one more spring mounted from this point to the other bracket, which we have down below right here. On this bracket, we have a little pinhole right there on the top left, and we will be mounting a spring between those 2 points. I have a whole bunch of parts on the white table, and I'll share with you guys what I'll be installing next. Walking up to the white table, I added a whole bunch of parts. So you guys will see on the left side, the 3-point mechanism. I will be installing this very soon. Then externally on the frame, we will mount our brake linkages with our springs right here. We have one more hose which we will be installing. This will then lead to our main valve for our steering. I cannot install that, like I mentioned before. I do not have the rod ends for the steering setup. I still have to purchase those. These 2 brackets will mount to the back of the frame around the transaxle, so we can then hook up our gearbox for our PTO. I really want to get those parts mounted, and I'll do so right away, but if you guys are looking for any drawings for the John Deere 400, I'll leave a link down in the description so you guys have access to some of the technical drawings on this John Deere 400, and those drawings will help you out in case I missed something in this video. And if you guys have any questions, leave a comment down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So right now, I'm going to share with you guys some more B-roll of the assembly process. On the left side of the garden tractor and the brake spring. And now I wanted to move on to the right side of the garden tractor, and I found a serious issue, which is a factory issue. So I'm on the right side of the garden tractor, and I'm having an issue with the brake linkage interfering with this bar right here. This will hook up to our 3-point on the back. Once the cylinder is activated, it will lift and move this bar right here, and that gets hooked up to the front. This will also allow us to lift and lower a mower deck. If I would have one, that would be able to lift it up front. But now the issue is, if I lift this up, I do not have an issue with the yoke right here. I reviewed all the drawings and everything seems to be fine. Everything like this bracket right here in the back is positioned just fine. The yoke and everything is adjusted properly. All the way up to the front, everything is now fine. The issue I'm having is now when I lower the 3-point, what that means is I retract the cylinder. That will then lower the 3-point here in the back. This bar will keep pushing forward, but at some point, it now touches the yoke of the brake linkage. And now the 3-point isn't as far down as it should be. There's still about an inch to go, and it's interfering right here with this yoke. Like I mentioned before, I reviewed all the drawings. The drawings are in the description down below. I double checked them, I triple checked them, and there's just nothing wrong with this setup right here, but there is an issue that those 2 parts interfere. the yoke is touching that bar, which will move with the 3-point hitch, and it doesn't allow the 3-point hitch to retract as far down as it actually should. So that's a big issue. And this video is already really long, and I don't want to stretch it any longer because I will have to modify and fabricate something. And I will bring you guys back for a result on this in an upcoming video, so stick around.